Hello. Welcome, and thank you for visiting. This is my third promotional video for my upcoming book release titled The Magnificence of the Three. In case you haven't seen my previous videos, I recommend them to make it easier to follow along. In my last video, I claimed that God redesigned the structure of the atom's particles and created Adam with them. God then planted the evidence in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, by claiming male and female he created them. The male and female God was referring to was meant to identify the redesign of the atom's particles, and recorded their transfer to Adam in this verse. It is my claim that the redesign of the atom's opposite attract particles specifically for man, turned into opposite attract emotions. They were designed to play the same role for man as the particles play for the atom's immortal survival. This was not the end of the project though. God again redesigned the invisible emotions and housed them with skin, flesh and bones. It turned out to be female and God called her Eve, the comparable helper. Eve, as I claim, was the manifestation of emotions in the flesh. And as I discovered in my search, God planted parables to support others. This was the same here. Once Eve was created, then we have us an opposite attract relationship, the fundamental design of heaven and earth. We have male and his female opposite, but as God created both, then God is the neutron in this relationship. The design of the atom's particles was again made visible. God planted pieces of scientific evidence in record as if for us to discover his intention. I am only going to reveal 2 pieces here and you will find more in book when released. The first one was Eve's purpose. According to God in Genesis chapter 3, verse 18, a helper comparable to Adam was needed. Eve was that helper. Helper was a scientific term made simple and preserved parabolically, awaiting knowledge to increase and accumulate to reveal its meaning. Keep in mind that it is my claim that it is the role the particles of the atom play in the atom's operation that keeps it immortal. Scientifically, the atom's particles are the atom's helpers. Thousands of years later, our science experts with advanced knowledge came along and gave the same classification to the opposite attract emotions. Even though emotion is a continuing subject of debate as to their origins, it is a consensus however amongst various fields of science including evolution that the role emotions play is to help man improve chances of survival in the environment. To put it in simple words, emotions are helpers for mankind according to our science experts. They classified emotions as helpers just as God designed Eve as. This is one of those convenient coincidences and there are many of them cited in Book of Science to inadvertently reveal the meaning of a biblical parable. God and science were parallel to each other here, for example, as science inadvertently came thousands of years later and classified emotions as helpers as well. The second piece of evidence was revealed during the incident in the Garden of Eden when Eve decided to go for knowledge. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, God's first emotion was biblically presented to the world. This emotion was desire. As I said in the last video, desire is the atom's version of the neutron for emotion. God presented desire as I claim. As the neutron mother of emotions, as no emotion can be activated without the individual's desire to do so. When I reviewed this verse 6 under the microscope, I came away with the conclusion that if God wanted to tell us only that Eve decided to eat the fruit, then there was no need to include desire in the presentation unless there was a hidden meaning to it. Once I came to conclude that Adam was designed after the atom, then the inclusion of desire in Eve's decision when there was no need to, revealed its meaning. God first turned emotions into human flesh and called her Eve. Then God came in the next chapter and affirmed his intent and scientific design for us to discover. By linking desire, the mother of emotions, with Eve, the future mother of mankind. Adam could not make the decision to go for knowledge. Only Eve could, as this was her designated role as the helper. Both desire, the mother of emotion, and Eve, the manifestations of emotions in the flesh, came together and made the call for the future of mankind. God made the link here and the link was in the performance of a duty. In other words, they acted as helpers. This duty was to decide the future of mankind, and that future would be knowledge. Remember these points, as you will understand this claim much better once you find out what the Tree of Knowledge and Garden of Eden are. When Adam was questioned about why he ate the fruit, our scholars had been teaching us that Adam failed to take responsibility for his decision by blaming Eve. However, in case you haven't noticed from the scripture, God did not tell Eve not to eat the fruit, but only Adam. Looking at it from that angle, it is reasonable to conclude that God wanted to preserve the story exactly that way. It was meant to demonstrate an example of how Eve was supposed to perform her first duty as the helper. Therefore, Adam told God the truth. Adam's response was not presented as an effort to save himself, but to reveal how the woman who was designed as the helper was supposed to perform her task. But remember, Eve was the manifestation of emotions in the flesh. Therefore, the decision was not done by the human body, but by the invisible emotion. This was exactly what God meant to project by linking Eve and desire, the emotion, on same scene. It explains for me why desire was included in story when there was no need to, if all God was trying to tell us was that Eve decided to eat the fruit. Then check this out. God added another call that turned out to be scientific as well. Our experts have now concluded that behind every human decision is an emotion. God made this call here thousands of years ago when he included desire in Eve's first survival decision. Again, there really was no reason why desire was involved in presentation unless it was a parable. This is another example of how God planted pieces of the parabolic evidence that turned out to be scientific in nature. In case you are interested in more information about this, get a copy of book when released, as the discussion is more extensive in there. This includes the scientific evidence in support of God's design of creating Eve from Adam's rib rather than independently. For this video, this is a short summary of this subject related to the scientific state of Eve. God brought together Eve, the physical helper for man, and desire, the emotional helper, and together they made the decision for man's future survival. That future would be knowledge, but with emotions as its roots. This was what the parable was meant to project. We had been distracted by the single meaning assigned to desire by our teachers, but Bertrand Russell, a 1950 Nobel Prize winner in literature, captured the meaning of desire in its scientific nature. He stated that all human activity is prompted by desire. This was how God presented desire to us as the mother of emotions. Because of the nature of presentation, in that God redesigned the atom's particles and turned them to emotions, I am claiming that God presented desire and emotions as innate and hardwired into the human structure. However, some of you may be turned off by my claims, as this is not what you have been taught. Rest assured that the design of man was perfect, just misunderstood. Once you see it through the lens of the atom, hope becomes a legitimate goal, hopefully for all of mankind. This is all for now on this subject related to the imitation and transfer of the design of the atom's particles to create man with. But a much more extensive discussion of desire and emotion is in book and involving the Tree of Knowledge and Garden of Eden. If video has any value to you as a seeker and a servant of God, be a priest and please like and share all these videos whenever you come across them on social media. Thank you for watching. Hope you visit again. Stay blessed and have a wonderful day.